Welcome to Doing Business in Ghana on the TG Africa YouTube channel. And in this video, what I wanted to discuss is some of the challenges facing the diaspora here in Ghana. Now, it's very clear that there are a lot of great opportunities here in Ghana to build wealth and make a lot of money. But with this opportunity also comes quite a lot of challenges, which I think is important we need to understand so that we can prepare for and develop the right strategies to overcome. And one of the biggest challenges people face here in Ghana is issues to do with recruitment. Now, there might be a large labor force of people looking for job opportunities, but unfortunately, there are a lot of issues to do with finding good quality people to work for you. So there are a lot of issues, especially to do with stealing, lack of professionalism, and even critical thinking at times. That is why it's important we find effective strategies to address some of these challenges. Now, one good way to go about this is to make sure you are paying your staff members above the average market rate. Because you see, in a place like Ghana, because the labor market is weak and there's more demand for jobs than there is a supply of jobs, employers are not really incentivized to offer very good wages. And this creates a situation where people are not earning enough money to cover their basic expenses. And a lot of Ghanaians here have a lot of dependents. So one way to disincentivize people from stealing is to try and actually pay them a good salary. That's not going to solve everything, but at least it should inhibit their desire to want to steal. And another thing to do is to try and offer people a real pathway within your business so that they can see how they can grow and mature, make more money, and establish a career with you. And by doing that, they'll be a lot more invested in trying to make the business successful and work a lot harder. And what I will also say is to try and avoid having a lot of trust within your business operations. And instead, what you should try and do is to systemize and adopt protocols and checks and balances, which makes it very easy to identify whether there have been any inconsistencies or discrepancies so that you can highlight who is to blame and get rid of them, rather than creating a business operation where you're actually relying on a lot of trust when it comes to handling money or handling goods. And finally, you should just adopt the mentality of hiring slow and firing fast, because here in Ghana you're going to have to, it's a numbers game. So be prepared to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your ideal recruits. And another major challenge people face here in Ghana is issues to do with currency instability. You see, a country like Ghana is very import dependent, and on top of that, the country is a primary commodity exporter. And the nature of commodities in the international markets is the price is highly volatile. So these two factors create a situation here in Ghana where there's a lot of currency instability with the city. And this reflects in prices not being very stable and continuously changing all the time. So to protect yourself against currency instability, one thing you want to do is to keep a lot of dollar reserves and to only convert your dollar reserves into cedis as and when you need it, especially if you know you're having to import a lot of things into the country for your business. Because if you already have dollar reserves, then in the case of any kind of devaluation event with the cedi, you're protected. And I will also recommend you to focus on starting businesses where you can source almost 75% of the core inputs and raw materials here in Ghana. Because if you can source these materials here in Ghana, you're not having to worry about importing these inputs, which again means that if there's any kind of devaluation of the cedi, it wouldn't affect your business that much. And the other thing is to try and actually start a business that has a great export potential, especially to markets in the UK, the US, Europe, China, and India. Because with export-based business, you're going to be earning money in dollars. And on top of that, it allows you to take advantage of any potential devaluation of the cedi, because a weaker cedi makes your business a lot more competitive on the international market, because it would be a lot cheaper for people to buy from you than buy from other firms who are coming from areas where their currencies are a lot stronger than the cedi. And the final major challenge I think people face here in Ghana comes to do with running out of money. You see, a lot of people here have really good ideas, but a reason why people tend to fail is because they underestimate the amount of money they're actually going to need in order to start a business and actually carry on with the operating expenses. So you have a lot of situations where people don't have enough money to withstand the early periods where you will be spending more than you're making and your cash flow is basically negative. And when you find yourself in such a position, you have no choice but to, basically cease business operations. So a good way to overcome this and avoid putting yourself in such a position is to make sure you have at least 2 times the initial startup capital you need for the particular business you're starting. That way, when there are unforeseen expenses, you should have enough reserves to cover them. And it's highly likely that there are always going to be unforeseen expenses that you will have to deal with. And I would also advise, instead of you trying to bootstrap the financing of your business, try and look at starting what I call an investment syndicate. And all this means is to find a group of people within your network that you trust and they trust you, and try and raise the startup capital together. This way, it actually makes starting a business here in Ghana a lot less risky. And it also means that in case you need more money to finance the business, it's a lot easier to raise it, for example, within a group of 10 people who can both afford to contribute 10,000 each to raise, let's say, 100,000, than you as an individual trying to find an extra 100,000. But obviously, if you can't do any of these two things, then I'll strongly urge you to focus on starting a service-based business where you actually leverage against your knowledge, skill sets, and prior work experience and expertise. Because these types of businesses are a lot more cost effective, there's low risk, and you don't need that much startup capital for. And the best way to do this is through setting up some form of advisory or consultancy based service. So I hope you found this video useful, and if you would like more information about doing business here in Ghana, feel free to book a consultation with us, and make sure to grab yourself a copy of The Great Return. And I'll see you in the next video.